Hello and welcome back to our Conversations with Isaiah.
Hi.
I'm Reverend David Matthews, and again am with the Reverend Nancy Springer, my colleague and friend. And we're very glad to be able to do this Bible study with you today. We're continuing on with chapter 53 of the book of Isaiah, and we're reading today in the Common English Bible. Nancy, would you like to start us off?
Sure. All right. Who can believe what we have heard, and for whose sake has the Lord's arm been revealed? He grew up like a young plant before us, like a root from dry ground. He possessed no splendid form for us to see, no desirable appearance. He was despised and avoided by others, a man who suffered, who knew sickness well. Like someone from whom people hid their faces, he was despised and we didn't think about him. It was certainly our sickness that he carried and our sufferings that he bore. But we thought him afflicted, struck down by God, and tormented. He was pierced because of our rebellions and crushed because of our crimes. He bore the punishment that made us whole. By his wounds we are healed. Like sheep, we had all wandered away, each going its own way. But the Lord let fall on him all our crimes. He was oppressed and tormented, but didn't open his mouth. Like a lamb being brought to slaughter, like a ewe silent before her shearers, he didn't open his mouth.
Due to an unjust ruling, he was taken away, and his fate, who will think about it? He was eliminated from the land of the living, struck dead because of my people's rebellion. His grave was among the wicked, his tomb with evildoers. Though he had done no violence and had spoken nothing false, but the Lord wanted to crush him and to make him suffer. If his life is offered as restitution, he will see his offspring. He will enjoy long life. The Lord's plans will come to fruition through him. After his deep anguish, he will see light, and he will be satisfied. Through his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will make many righteous and will bear their guilt. Therefore, I will give him a share with the great, and he will divide the spoil with the strong. In return for exposing his life to death and being numbered with rebels, though he carried the sin of many and pleaded on behalf of those who rebelled. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So, Nancy, who are we talking about here? Like, I personally have an opinion, but who are we talking about?
Well, I think you and I are of the same opinion here. I mean, we have no choice but to look back on this through our Christian New Testament lens. And yeah, from where I'm sitting, this is about Jesus. And I mean, we read these passages at Christmas and Easter, but I really struggle in this part to step into the context of the ancient Israelites who would have heard these prophetic speakings. And yeah, I don't know how they would have heard it. I don't know what they would have said, because it's talking about, it's using past tense verbs, and that's right. So it's something past, but yet not to be, not yet. I don't know. It's very confusing to see it for me any other way but as the messianic promise in Jesus.
So when we're reading this, we're reading words about something that has happened in the past. But when it's being written, it's writing about something that's happened in the past, but Jesus hasn't happened yet. So the logical argument is, therefore, it cannot be about Jesus, unless, of course, this is written as some prophetic statement of what has to happen, what will for certain be. And even then, this is confusing. So the idea is possibly that he is writing about something else that has happened in the history of Israel. And Nancy, you would have thought about that.
Well, yeah, one of the commentaries I read said that the people that heard this the very first time would have heard it with the lens of the book of Job, right? That they would have said, especially in verses 10 and 11, right? That the Lord wanted to crush him and make him suffer. And so they would have taken their understanding of the story of Job and applied it to this, right? And so the theme from Job, Job did nothing wrong. God allowed all that Job had to be taken away and Job to be afflicted with skin disease and illness. And the point of all of it, of all the debates between Job and his friends and the debate between Job and God, is to move us beyond our human understanding of transaction, of punishment and reward, into God's relational understanding of the whole world and all of creation and all human beings, that we're to see life relationally rather than transactionally, and even our relationship with God. And so that's how the original hearers might have heard this. I mean, that's one understanding I can grasp, but I still see Jesus.
And personally, I struggle with that interpretation, that commentary, because verse 10 here, but the Lord wanted to crush him and make him suffer. And there's no sense of that I found in the book of Job. God doesn't want Job to suffer. God's allowing it to happen. And so there's this sense of God wanting this person to suffer, this sense, and that just seems to go against everything I know of the character of God wanting someone to suffer. Yes, to crush him, okay, maybe you can view the crushing as sort of a sifting, a separation from the evil from the good, okay, maybe, but the wanting someone to suffer, I does not fit in my context and my understanding of the character of God. And so I look at this and I think to myself, this doesn't seem to be, if you will, about a person per se, if it's being written from in historical context about something that's already happened. But for God wanting someone or something to suffer, it's like the evil, the sin. It's the only way I can understand is if God is wanting this personification of evil to suffer. It's like a person who has experienced some true travesty and horror in their life, going into the courtroom and seeing the person who has done it, and they themselves just wanting that person to truly suffer. Like in those movies where you have the person who's asked, well, do you want this person to be caught by the police and for them, to be tried? And the person being like, I don't want the police to catch them. I want to catch them. And that sense of the person wanting to enact this justice upon them. And that's the only way I can logically comprehend this attitude of God, of if it really is this God looking at the source, the all the evil in the world wrapped into one, and God just saying, I want to destroy that. These aren't statistics of all the people you've hurt. I know those people and I love those people, and you have hurt me grievously by hurting them. And so I want to just destroy you. And yet that doesn't seem to connect with the verses just before, because verse 9, his grave was among the wicked, his tomb with the evildoers, though he had spoken no violence, had done no violence and spoken nothing false. It's again this personification of evil being placed or put upon somebody who didn't do any of that. And so it's like God taking it out upon this person. And then though we get to verse 11, and later in verse 10, we see this conditional statement, though. After the Lord wanted to crush him and make him suffer, we see this lovely word, if. If his life is offered as restitution, he will see his offspring, he will enjoy long life. So despite this personification of evil being placed upon this person, this thing, and God wanting to truly destroy it, if this person chooses, if this person offers their life as restitution, as the means and mode of forgiveness of life, then it's all of this will be new life will spring out of this. It's the idea of if the seed dies, right? If it is placed into the ground, if it is buried there, then it will bear new life, but only if it's placed into the ground. And so it's that sense. So I have a hard time seeing it as reference to Job, because Job doesn't fulfill those requirements,
Oh,
that
yeah.
idea. It's like
Yeah.
written in the language of Job, but like a Job version 2.0, a Job something more. We're
Something
looking at
better.
Job for
Yeah.
reference, but it's about more than just him.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. So the I know that sometimes that it's written that the personification of Israel itself is written in this way as well, about like Israel as a whole, as a person. But even that seems to miss the mark slightly. Yes, it recognizes Israel's call as a whole of who they are intended to be, but then it would state that Israel as a whole needs to take on the sufferings of the world in order to redeem itself and the world. And that itself doesn't seem to make connection to the call of Israel and to who it is. So again, it needs to be something more than just that. It's referencing a person. Like,
Right.
and
Right.
so everything that I see in this seems to point back towards our revelatory understanding of Jesus Christ, but I'm trying to understand it through the context, and I just keep coming back to Jesus. I'm just like, I don't see how this is anything else.
Well, it's right. God has said to the people of Israel over and over and over again, I will restore things. I will set things right. Hold on to that hope. Um, and again, right, we see that hope being fulfilled um, through Jesus. And so, right, it's that continued pleading with God's people to be hopeful and to trust that it is God that will restore things as they are to be. Working in and through God's chosen people, yes, of course, but it's God's plan and God's purpose that we are to follow and not try to drag God along onto our plans and our purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe it's just more of another way they could have heard it is it's just one more proclamation of God's promise and hope. But yeah, it's hard for us to step out of who we are, um, seeing all of that hope and promise fulfilled through Jesus.
Yeah, because as you said, though, that the character, it reveals again the character of God,
Yeah.
and that sense of truly, as I read in verse 10, it's that God's hatred, true loathing of sin, because of God's knowledge of truly every single person that it has hurt, every person that it has killed, the addictions, the lives that it's broken, everything. God knows those people, and so truly hates sin, loathes sin. And I think
Cannot
that,
be in the presence of sin. And that's right. If we go back to the conversation we had in the previous chapter about the purity, right, that is the purpose of the purification laws for the Israelites, is to rid themselves of the things that make them unclean so that they can be in God's presence. Um, because God's presence cannot abide sin. It just cannot. Sin is destroyed in the presence of God. And if you are um, stepping into God um, unclean, right? You just can't do that. God can't allow that. And so that's where, right, our New Testament concept of sanctification comes into place, that we are being purified through our life, through our journey as we follow Jesus, an ongoing process so that we can abide deeper and deeper in the presence of God every day.
mm-hmm. And I love that you said that, deeper and deeper every day, because truly it reminds me of C.S. Lewis's The Last Battle, further in and further up, right? They come to the land of the emperor, the kingdom of God, if you will, and at the end they're struck by its beauty and its amazement, but it's like, no, further in and further up, there's more to go, there's more to
More.
see,
Yeah.
and just the amazement of it.
Yeah.
So Nancy, is there anything else that that stands out to you that you would want to highlight? We've kind of focused in on verse 10 here, but is there anything that that stands out to you that you really want to emphasize?
I think that's about it as far as emphasis. There's some beautiful passages here about who Jesus is, and I think passages that most of us are somewhat familiar with, maybe about through our Christmas readings and Easter readings, and how we see this fulfilled in Jesus. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I've enjoyed this conversation. It's been good.
All right. Well, folks, God bless you. And we're very glad you're able to join us. We hope that and pray that this encourages you to continue to look into scriptures to be inspired and ultimately to spend time with God. So God bless and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.